Hi, my name is Aaron Guillen. I'm from the Press, and this is Rick Glumac from the BC NDP for the riding of Port Moody and Coquitlam.
That's right.
Yep. So we're just going to get started with a quick interview just to get to know a little bit more about him, where he stands and his values, and why or why not you should vote for their party. So being all college students ourselves, many Douglas students are concerned with repaying student loans and dealing with debt. Should you win in your riding, how will you and your party ensure that any student attending like any post-secondary school in BC will save money with your party?
Yeah, well, under the BC Liberals, the tuition rates have gone up more than any other province in Canada. It's been astronomical, the tuition increases, and the BC NDP is going to cap the tuition fees, and we're going to do 0% interest student loans and a $1,000 completion grant when you graduate. We understand the challenges that students go through today in university and how expensive it is. Affordability is a huge issue, so we want to help students with that. And there's other things I can talk about around investments in post-secondary education. You want to talk about that now, or expand on that later?
You can expand into that now.
So one of the key initiatives in the BC NDP platform is investment in, for example, high-tech and innovation industries, and the BC NDP wants to invest $100 million in post-secondary education in areas like engineering, software development, health sciences, and industries where we can grow into the high-tech sectors. We want to do a $50 million grant or scholarships for graduate students, and we want to expand our co-op programs, and this all comes under the context of one of the challenges with high tech is talent, and making sure we have high caliber talent to work in these companies, and we want to grow that within the province, and we want to attract talent here. And so there's a whole other aspect of this around the party wants to create a role of a chief talent officer to give recommendations on how to grow, attract and retain skilled talent here in BC, and we want to invest in clean energy and grow the high-tech sector with tax credits and grants for networking at conferences for startups, and there's a lot of initiatives around this in our platform that we're very excited about, and that I think there's a bright future for lots of young people going through university today in the jobs that we're going to be creating in these industries. So.
Okay, so there was a news story this past January. It was about a Port Moody senior, and she spent 36 hours lying in the hallway of Eagle Ridge Hospital just waiting for a bed after suffering a brain bleed. If elected, what will be done to deal with similar situations such as this and the entirety of the provincial healthcare system?
That woman, that was Jean Donaldson, and she called me after she spent a few days in the hospital after she left the hallway, and I brought this issue to the party and raised attention about this to the party, and we got this into the media because she wanted to let people know how bad it is, what we need to do is make sure that we invest in our hospitals. Eagle Ridge Hospital, for example, has capacity for 200 beds. We have funding for 168 beds. There was a wing in the hospital that was completely empty when Jean Donaldson was there. And why is that? Like, why are we? I mean, we're facing these shortages constantly right now in terms of resources in our hospitals, and we have a wing that's completely. We don't even have to build anything new in the hospital. We just have to make sure that we have the appropriate staffing there to serve the people that need it. Also, the NDP wants to create family urgent care centers. So this is another way to handle the issue with emergency room backlogs. Is these urgent care centers are non-emergency centers that somebody can go to for any non-emergency situation. Whereas your kid has a flu, or even broken bones and burns and things like that. You go in there and you have access to doctors, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and other healthcare professionals working in a team-based environment. They do this in other provinces, and where they've done it, the emergency room backlogs have gone down significantly. We need to learn from best practices in other areas. Something the NDP really wants to do is make sure that when we see success, we replicate success. There's so many examples here in BC where that's not happening. I know about the story down in Richmond, for example. They had a pilot project where they had 20 month wait times for hip and knee replacement. They did some strategic investing. They brought everyone together that was involved in the whole process of bringing those surgeries to people. They worked together and they reduced that wait time to 5 months, 20 months down to 5 months. It's a huge success, and the BC Liberals canceled it. So why are they doing that? Why aren't we learning from our successes, and why aren't we improving our healthcare system?
So last year, the Green Party banned corporate and union donations to show the public that they were a party of people for the people. Over $600,000 was donated by the United Steelworkers Union last year to the BC NDP, one of the biggest donations in provincial history. So what's your take on the issue of banning corporate union donations with the underlying issue of sharing stakeholder values?
Sharing stakeholder values?
Yeah, like the public eye might see it as that they have a stakeholder position in place.
Right.
Yeah, what's your response to that?
Well, I mean, what I can say is on day one, if the NDP get elected, we're going to ban corporate union donations. The reality is that at this point, when you have a government, the BC Liberals, who have taken so much money from corporations that they're able to blast the airwaves every day with negative advertising, if we don't have the funds to compete with that, we will lose the election and we will have another 4 years of this government. So we are taking corporate union donations at this point, knowing that we will not do that ever again if we get elected. I know, and me personally, I will never lock myself in a back room anywhere, have secret meetings with anyone from any corporation or union. I'm going to be open. I hold these regular community dialogues in my community. To me, it's very important to connect to the people in my community. They are my lobbyists. In this provincial election, I've held 4 community dialogues, one on the environment, one on healthcare, one on affordable housing, and one on the economy. In each of these, I brought in subject matter experts to come and speak to us, and we've had a big crowd, and we've had a great conversation about the future of this province. We've learned together, and that's the way that I'm going to function as an MLA. I'm going to keep my ear to the ground, always be available for people, always create opportunities for this kind of dialogue. I would love to have more young people involved. I'd like to, talk about the future with young people. Young people deserve to have a voice, and I don't think they have a voice right now in government. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of people that feel like, oh, the politicians are all the same, but we're not. We're not all the same. With the NDP government, we will listen. We'll be a voice for young people, and so I look forward to that.
Now, as young adults, many of us have started working as part-time jobs while we go to school, but most of those jobs may be minimum wage, right? The BC NDP has made a promise to raise minimum wage to $15 by 2021. Where will you get the money to raise the wage?
Well, that's not a direct cost to our budget. Raising minimum wage will be something that businesses will have to do. And we are committed to working with small businesses to roll this out. We're going to create a small business task force, and we're going to like I mentioned before, our approach will be to make sure we work with all stakeholders and make sure that we understand the impacts to the decisions that we're making, and so that when we roll it out, it'll be rolled out in the best way. We're also going to be doing a 0.5% small business tax cut. We're going to be eliminating MSP premiums, and we have a lot of programs in place that are going to benefit small businesses. This is on the question of the minimum wage. I think we have a very robust program on how to roll that out.
So with the minimum wage raising to $15, are you concerned at all that some small businesses might not be able to take the weight of $15 per person and might cut down on employees?
Well, in areas where they've implemented this before, it's shown to, like in Seattle, for example. Seattle's doing great. Certainly it will be a challenge for some businesses, but like I said, the best way to deal with that is to work with the small businesses and make sure that that the way we roll this out takes into account all of their specific considerations. When the Liberals put out their 15% foreign tax, they just one day banned it's out there, right? There was no consultation. I've spoken to real estate developers real estate agents that their clients were impacted by that without any warning. And that is not how we're going to do it. We're not going to just roll this out one day. It's like no warning. Everyone will have a very clear understanding of how this is going to be rolled out, and we're going to make sure that it works for everyone. Because we're so low. Our minimum wage is so low. It's got to go up. And when people have that extra money in their pocket, it's only going to help with the economy, because they're going to have more money to spend within the system. It's about time we do that. It's been too long that it's been so low. But we've got to roll it out in a way that works with everyone.
Now, undeniably, the biggest issue in the election campaign is housing affordability. What has the BC NDP done to deal with housing affordability, and what will they do if elected to ensure that there's a stable market for future generations?
What have they done? Well, it's been 16 years of Liberal government, so what have they done? Take a look. Affordability is a big problem right now, and it's because of the BC Liberals. So there's, in terms of affordable housing, the BC NDP is going to build 114,000 affordable housing units over the next 10 years. That's market rental, below market rental, co-op housing. We haven't invested in co-op housing forever. Just recently, I saw a story of there was one unit that became available in co-op housing in Mount Pleasant, and 300 people showed up for that one unit. This is how bad things are, and so we need to address that. So we're gonna over 10 years make sure that we have a diversity of housing that can accommodate lower income families, and we're going to use made in BC wood to build this, and we're going to grow the forestry industry that has been decimated by the Liberals as well, with 30,000 jobs that have been lost there because we've been exporting raw logs overseas. And then on the home ownership front, we need to tackle that issue as well. There's a couple things that we're going to do in terms of closing tax loopholes. We're going to put a task force together, real estate task force, and look at that, because there's been some unfair practices going on the taxation side in real estate. Also, foreign speculation. We're going to put a 2% foreign speculation tax. So if you're a foreign investor, you don't live here in BC, and you buy a home and you just leave it empty, you're going to have to pay 2% of assessed value every year on that. I ran into someone door knocking recently, and this is a perfect example. It's a real estate developer, retired, and he said to me that they had these meetings with the Liberals to talk about this issue of escalating home prices and all of that. And he had some very specific advice, and he sat around the table and he said to me that Liberals didn't listen to a thing they said. They just let this problem get worse and worse and worse. And he was so frustrated. He said, I'm not participating in any of these things anymore. This government doesn't listen. He said to me, he's always voted Liberal, but he's retired now, and he's going to vote NDP. And if the NDP government get in, he would be very happy to sit down and talk about how we can address these issues. It comes back again to the fact that the NDP is going to be listening to the experts. We're going to be working together to solve these problems. It's not going to be this top-down, like I know what's right kind of approach that the BC Liberals have been putting out there. It's much more of a cooperative, collaborative approach that the BC NDP will put in place to address these problems.
So, are there any rumors or negative connotations that come with the BC NDP name that you would like to dispel for uninformed voters before they head to the polls?
Yeah, I mean, we are not the NDP of the 90s. We're the NDP of today. We're the NDP that embraces the future. We have a diversity of different types of people running in this election. We've got people like me, who I come from a high-tech background. I've worked in computer animation, video games, mobile app development. We have other people that are engineers, business owners. We represent a broad spectrum of diversity that represents the people of this province better than the Liberal Party does. We care about growing our economy. We care about growing it in a way that we're looking at industries of the future, like high tech and clean energy. And so we're a new party, and all I ask is to give us a chance to show what we can do, because we're ready to govern. I think when you're voting, you don't want to just vote against somebody. You want to vote for somebody, and I'm really happy with the platform that the party's put out. If you have a chance to read through it, it's 120 pages. It's pretty comprehensive. It's very exciting. It presents a very hopeful vision of the future of this province, and it's something to vote for. And it's very realistic. It's fully budgeted, balanced budget, and it's just different priorities than the Liberal Party. So I think, that's one of the things. It's challenging to break through all the negative advertising and everything else, but when you just get down to it and look at it, take some time, take a few minutes sometime to go to the BC NDP website and look at the platform, because it's great. It's about time we start moving in the right direction in this province.
Now, to sum things up, though it is quite cliche, why should voters vote for you as their MLA? Why do you deserve their vote?
Well, I think I have a proven track record. I've been a city councillor for 5 years, and you can look on my municipal website. You can see, what I've said when I ran for city council and what I've done, and you can see how it matches up. Like, I'm not just the type of person that says things. I actually work hard. I have quite a number of initiatives I brought to council and reports that I brought to council. Everything from putting solar panels on our city hall and rec center to initiatives around environmental protection and expansion of our park space, and a number of other areas. It's all you can read through every report. I posted it all on my website, and I think that's important. It's like past behavior is a good indicator for future behavior, and I would love it if every voter could get to know the candidates that they're voting for and see what their actual records are and what they've actually done, because that is going to be a good indicator for how they will behave. And what I've said about creating these opportunities to bring people together, these councillor chats I've been having, these community dialogues. I'm vice president of the Lower Mainland Local Government Association. I've been advocating for municipal issues to the provincial government for several years now. I'm on the Fraser Health Municipal Government Advisory Council. I've been pushing for funding for Eagle Ridge Hospital. Wrote a letter to the government, had it endorsed by our council after all the research I did in terms of what the needs are for the hospital. I've served on Metro Vancouver Zero Waste Committee and fought against garbage incineration, because I think there's other technologies out there where we can pull recyclables out of the waste stream. I've been elected to the board of UBCM, as the Vancouver Metro Area representative. I've sat on the Environment Committee at UBCM, and I've held the government's feet to the fire on their lack of oil spill response. I've done a lot of work around the environment. You can also look at my environmental record on my website. So I feel like I've been able to show what I can do as a councillor, and that'll be an indicator of what I can do as an MLA. I'm always open and accessible. Anybody watching this wants to send me an email, ask me a question, I'll answer you, and I look forward to having more of those conversations.
Well, that sums up our interview. Thank you so much, Rick, for spending time with us and answering some of our questions.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.